And I hope we're live. I have no idea if we're live or not, but we will see. So go ahead and say something absolutely inappropriate.
Alrighty, I can say whatever I want because we're not live yet.
We are live.
Okay, I won't do that then. I'm not gonna say anything crazy that gets me cancelled.
Welcome to the Flip Ship. And we are here on the very first... this is the first guest I've ever had on the Flip Ship. And welcome. Give everyone a warm welcome, or give yourself a warm welcome. Or how does it...
You want me to welcome myself right on camera on YouTube? That will definitely get me cancelled.
No, give yourself a warm welcome.
Hello, my name is Richard Grannon, and I'm going to be spending some quality time inside of your ears, your soul, and your mind.
Is anybody here right now? We need to go ahead and test the audio. If you hear us absolutely fine, give us a thumbs up or an emoji that signifies something that has a slightly positive connotation.
Oh, that's lovely. We get positive dopamine feedback from little glowing pixels and emojis. Can you hear us, guys? Wonderful.
Awesome. I think we could take these off now, yeah?
I never
Careful, it's quite bright in here, as you can see.
Well, it's the intergalactic rays that we need protection from.
Yeah, do you see this right here?
Yes,
these holograms are still not retina proof.
Okay, so don't look right into that.
Yeah, if your pupil is too close to that, then it could definitely shoot a pupil out.
Ooh.
Good Jesus. The more you do that, the alarms will set off in the Flip Ship.
Please do not inappropriately molest the hologram.
It's called the Flip Ship for a reason, okay? And plus, everything is still clean in here, and I know how you get. All right?
Yeah, all them fluids.
So, what do you think of the setup, guys? And what do you think of the Flip Ship, Richard?
I like it. It's very retro. I like the pinks and the blues. It's very soothing. It reminds me of my childhood.
How dare you call this retro? This is the future.
Oh, yes. I mean the future that was in the past once. Star Wars is not in the future. It's all in the past.
In a galaxy long ago, in a far...
That's right. It's far away and long, long ago.
It's like the opening line that everyone misses, because I didn't even know that, too, for the longest time.
Mm-hmm. Ancient tale of Star Wars.
Were you more of a Star Wars or Star Trek dude?
I was always Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars. But I like Star Trek. That's cool. I'll deal with that. I like a bit of Spock, and I like Spocking.
Yeah, I'm not neither really, but
couldn't give a fuck.
But I know I probably have had more exposure to Star Wars just because I like the aesthetics of the Sith.
Yeah.
The fucking Darth Maul with the horns and double-ended lightsaber. Shit's crazy.
Double-ended action.
So anyways, enough of the teenage boy talk. How's everybody doing today? Today, I believe that we wanted to try to start the discussion by you answering or asking a few questions. So we're going to go ahead and kickstart with a few questions from you guys. And then from there, we can latch onto a topic and then give you a absolutely disgusting diatribe that has no context or association.
Awesome. Whatever question you ask, it's just going to be a disgusting rant about not what you said.
Yeah. Okay. So, by the way, check this out. This is a new addition to the Flip Ship. No, so now we can actually see what
really cool.
other Fliptopians are up to,
That's
or
really
tentacle croissanians, the other tentacles, the pastries in the room.
Ryan has complimented me on my skin. Whenever people do that, it always reminds me of Silence of the Lambs.
I like your skin.
Your skin. Rubs the lotion onto its skin or else it gets the hose again. Thank you, Ryan.
So we have the very first one, which is a fairly simple question. How long is Richie going to be in Praha?
For the foreseeable. The lockdowns don't get as severe here as they do in the UK. The UK is bumbling its way towards another lockdown. Go out. Don't go out. At no time should you ever go out unless we tell you to go out. Eat out to help out. Oh no, you broke the country, you bunch of little bastards. So now it's our fault for spreading the virus when they told us to go out. Incompetent Etonian tools.
And I know you British always think that you're very unique. Unfortunately, this is happening everywhere around the world. The same mixed messages from every single place at the moment, because Praha in the Czech Republic is not doing too well either in terms of coming up with a decision. I mean, God knows what's happening out in the U.S. at the moment. But yeah, every single country seems to be going under the same indecisiveness in terms of how to deal with something like this, you know?
It's an interesting thing because psychologically, if you tell people you're going one way and then the other, and then the next week it's the other way, and then the next week it's the other, it is psychologically exhausting. It's kind of like almost like a torture technique.
I remember you briefly saying something like this when we were sitting in about to get a demo of the new flip ship just for the exclusive purpose of light speed travel because I don't have the safety precautions here. This is literally just to float around and give a podcast radio show for, you know, Fliptopia or whatever.
Sure.
So we might actually have a more high-end flip ship. And right before we came in, I never thought about it for some reason, and it's so obvious, but this is your work, and you basically said, go ahead.
Yeah, if you give people very conflicting messages and you give them casually about things that massively impact their life, it's like a standard strategy of narcissistic abuse to wear out the target and to drive them into a state of learned helplessness. Eventually, we'll all be so confused and so tired of the indecision that we'll be begging for any decisive action. That's the next thing is we'll be driven to beg for a decisive action.
And because I'm a complete idiot, the way that I analyze what you just said in the most simplistic terms is imagine if you go to a restaurant and you and your friend are debating over what to eat for 30 minutes before you actually begin to order. Do you want the hummus or you want the calamari? Do you want the hummus or the calamari? Or do you actually want the steak? No, you're vegan, you want the tofu? And imagine bickering back and forth and you couldn't actually find what goddamn food you want, and your hunger is building so much that you're getting hangry and irritable and absolutely pissed off to the point where, you know what, just give me whatever the restaurant wants. Waiter, what do you recommend? I'll get that. So according to what you're saying, it's basically making us try to, or giving us so many options that conflict the next one that eventually we're just going to be like, whatever you want to do, we'll do it.
Pretty much. And I would say, I don't want to increase people's paranoia because I don't know that this is true, but it's something to consider. In narcissistic abuse, if somebody comes to me and they say, oh, my husband said this, my wife said this, what does it mean? I would be telling people, whatever it is you're feeling, assume that that's what they want you to feel. So in this situation, applying the same logic, if it was narcissistic abuse down from the government to the people, you'd say, whatever you're feeling, assume that's what they want you to feel. And whatever you start demanding, assume that you have been provoked into a state of reactive abuse where that's exactly what they wanted you to demand in the end.
I mean, has there been a time period where you have the higher-ups, government authorities or whatever, flip-flopping this to this amount worldwide?
No. We're in an unprecedented moment in human history and recorded history. There's never been anything like this. And the most optimistic view is that we're looking at broad-scale global incompetence. I pray that that's what it is. I pray that that's what it is. The less optimistic view is that they're singing from a preordained hymn sheet.
Well, either option is pretty fucking scary, considering that the people that are supposed to take care of us are either really incompetent or they're trying to get us through some sort of thing.
The optimism of the incompetence is incompetent governments have been and can be and have been overthrown and replaced. If it's not incompetence, but it's actually a broader plan, then the chance of when the plan is enacted of overthrowing and replacing minimizes. You would then live with that tyranny for a period of time.
Right.
Sorry to be so depressing so early.
I mean, obviously, this is what we do. We try to come in a little more wholesome and then immediately go to existential dread and dystopian fascist states.
Yes.
One question that I saw a bit earlier that I forgot to pull up, but it's like, how do you live in one?
How do you live in a
fascist state?
There would be no doubt for you. I mean, in many ways, your life will probably be easier. There are stresses that you endure with your freedom that you're not even aware of that will simply be taken away from you. So freedom is stressful. Choice is stressful. So... And everybody will be in the same boat. I don't know, I've never lived through it, but I know the effects of choice. I know the effects of freedom. And I know that there are Yugo-nostalgics, there are Yugoslavian people who have nostalgia for the former Yugoslavia They're called Yugo-nostalgics. There are communo-nostalgics here, right? We were talking to a Czech guy the other day saying there are old people who miss communism because nobody was better than anybody else. And you had the absolute security of knowing you had a job. Because if I wanted to fire Pierre, apparently I couldn't do it. And the communist rule that Czech Republic had without giving him another job. So I couldn't just fire him. So, not all bad. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something that we got to be careful in terms of how we go about discussing the thing, because I made a video that I haven't released yet saying, we've talked about this a few times, how the over amount of option and freedom is a huge part of our anxieties. But if somebody just heard that without the context, it's like, oh, so dictatorship is what you're saying will get rid of our anxieties.
I actually already see people right now, many people vocally calling for dictatorship. They don't know that they are, but they're aggressively saying, shut up, wear your mask, do what the government says, follow the government guidelines. And if you question, even if you so much as raise it as a question, they become aggressive, bullying, dominating, violent, trying to stop it. So these people don't know it. They're unconsciously going through the totalitarian tiptoe towards full-blown dictatorship.
Yeah, and I think the what do you say, the precedents and what's leading up to this, it's a very simple yet easy conclusion to come to. You're in one system and it's not working. Mm-hmm. So then you want the other one.
Right.
It's as basic as that. So we're in the freest, westernized, capitalistic thing, and because we see the problems with it, the easiest conclusion to make is, well, that doesn't work, let's go to the next one.
Oh, I already wrote my speeches for when I take over, which was, brothers and sisters gather round. Do you see how awful it was? Our mental health rates were spiking. I was on the front lines. Men and women couldn't stand each other. But now, in this utopian world, we can all come together. Just relinquish your choice. Just relinquish free will. Just do as you're told at all times. And you will know a peace and a bliss that you didn't imagine was possible previously. That's how I wrote my speech.
Wonderful. I actually just saw the other day, I've been trying to just dip my toes back into the current events and the stuff that's happening because God forbid being holed up in a room watching this being the only type of content you ingest for every single day for like 3 months straight. So now I'm looking at stuff and it's actually way scarier because I know they're not the greatest journalistic source necessarily, but Vice just came out with a good... If you can look past the biases, it's still pretty good. It's basically involved in Spain, and there is a literal rise of an actual fascist party that is being overt in terms of praising Francisco Franco?
Yeah, Franco, yeah.
Franco. And they followed this dude that was apparently Dutch, and his whole room is just plastered with magazine cutouts of Franco. And now he's part of this party. They have bars that just praise this dictator, and they're actually marching the streets. And then you have two other sub-parties that are along the same lines. And they're really pushing for this new state.
Well, it doesn't massively surprise me because so you say, okay, too much consumerism, too much freedom, brothers and sisters, come over here. Aren't you thirsting for some peace? We can release the agitation. We can give you peace. Similar principle. Make people thirst for a strong daddy. We're all like, the strong daddies are just forbidden in this culture that we've created.
Right.
We've even overtly said patriarchy is evil. Matriarchy is wonderful. Patriarchy is evil. Fatherhood is okay, but you have to be a soy boy, beta male about it. You can't train men to be men. That's, it's out of date. It's intrinsically toxic. It's destructive. It's poisonous. And, even the people who go along with it, literally believing that that's true, they're still humans. They thirst for it. They're still thirsty. We don't get to change our intrinsic human nature. We need men, we need women.
Is there some sort of rule for psychological compensation to that extreme? Because it's such a fundamental law of human behavior. You suppress one thing and it's going to come back full force just not too soon after.
Yeah. In psychoanalytic theory, I think the rule would be, everybody knows what repression is, but then you have sublimation. So you try and convert the desire to something else. So
Right.
so you push that desire down here, and it sort of alchemically transmutates within you and then pops out somewhere else. But if you lean too far one way, you're going to spring back the other way.
Exactly.
Dude, I could do it in the UK right now. Just go back to the UK, rock up as a patriarchal figure. I know exactly what buttons to push.
Right.
And go. I've had people ask me to do it. I've already had people say, please do this, please. And I'm like, I can't do that because it's evil. Like, it's a total manipulation. I know how vulnerable people are, and you can't do that.
Yeah, and my thing is, like, I'm trying to even branch further than just the specifics of patriarchy and father figure, but I mean, because we're on this topic, I'm trying to speak about this from an overarching psychological perspective. The more you try to destroy and push away one thing that's so apparent in human nature, the other half is going to come and swallow everybody, and everyone's going to try their hardest to make that happen. So in this particular situation of trying to destroy authoritarian father figure, patriarchy, buzzword, or whatever the hell, it's inevitable. You're going to have the worst backlash to compensate for years and years of trying to obliterate this archetype, that it's going to come harder than ever. And that's what you're seeing in a lot of places around the world. Trump is the most overt daddy authoritarian type of figure. Putin is another. Then you have China. Then now you see it with the resurgence of Franco in Spain as well. This is all a result of trying to obliterate this type of archetype, and it's gonna whip back around, man.
Well, the streets have it right again. It's actually when you say somebody is thirsty, that's a perfect way of putting it, because if I tell you water is bad, water is bad, water is bad, you can try and imbibe that ideology, but eventually what happens, you still need water.
Right.
You still are an entity that needs water. That's why I said we need mother, we need father, we need woman, we need man. And so even I can say it, like some super stern dictatorial dude in a uniform, and he's going to tell you exactly what's up and exactly what we need to do. It's the indecision that's so aggravating. Somebody comes along and goes, this is what we're doing now. This is going to be our steps forward. You'd be like, oh, thank God. Okay, take my vote. Yes, I'll go with you. I'll absolutely go with you.
And just to level it out evenly, like we're talking about father figure, masculine energy, authoritarianism. But if you do it the other way around, guess what? Who's going to nurture and actually grow in terms of compassion of the environment when everything is going to be exclusively dictatorial and just brutal and brute and what do you say, commanding in that way too. So I'm not one-sided on this thing. I think I have a decent enough understanding of human behavior that the more you lean extreme on one thing, it's going to come back really soon the other way.
You know what's interesting as well, if you look at Adolf's speeches in the 30s, he often spoke about viruses and contagion.
Really?
Yeah. He Jordan Peterson has covered this. He reckons that he rated very highly for the trait of disgust, and he was obsessed with cleanliness, and he saw Germany as a body.
Right.
And the body was infected. It had a virus inside of it, and they needed to clear out this virus. We have it literally now. We have that language being used now, which is like, what will humans do to rid themselves of an invisible threat, of a virus? The worst things. Yeah, it's historical precedent. Wasn't that long ago. It's not like we've evolved in the last 80 years. We're the same dumb monkeys we were back then.
If anything, it's just, what do you say? It's just turned on overdrive because the information spreads even faster now. Imagine if these dictators had social media like we have now.
It would have been way easier for him to organize. When he started out, he literally was like a street gangster running around with a pistol. And we only know him when he was on the ascent. But he failed multiple times, and he went into hiding. He got into shootouts with the opposition. They were fist fighting with each other. He was a thug. He was a street... Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, okay.
He was a street-level thug, and his boys were street-level thugs. He used street-level thugs. The brown shirts, they had Crystal Nacht. They had this night where they went out and smashed the targeted group, Jews. They beat them up and smashed their shops. And then afterwards, he disbanded them. And anybody who wanted to fight with him, he killed them.
Wonderful. I love how this discussion came to be just asking how long you're going to be in Prague for.
Yes, probably for a while. I was making an oblique point there about people being useful idiots in social movements. I'm sure you all caught it.
Yes. So, I mean, all I know about the uprising of him is really he just kind of originated in these pubs in an economic crisis, just kind of stood on top of a fucking bar desk and started just screaming methed out.
It's not that hard.
But I mean, social media, the metaphorical pub where people scream methed out.
Yeah.
So your iPhone's a meth hit, dude. And people just overdrive their message and start yelling hardcore. And then now it doesn't just reach the end of the bar walls, it ends in infinity.
Everywhere, yeah. And forevermore as well. It doesn't, it's out there forevermore. So yeah, it's these are dangerous times. I mean, I could fully see why people would want to swing hard right now for multiple reasons. There are multiple irritants in the environment that would make people happily swing hard right. We don't want that. We really must avoid that.
All it takes in time in history is an economic crisis, man.
Yeah.
That's, if I had to point to one thing that really sets people leaning on one is particularly that one. People are broke as fuck. Mm-hmm. They got no money. They just want a job. I can give you a job now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it takes, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy. People are fragile as shit, man.
Yeah. You're doing a great thing for your country. You'll be a part of history, and we can give you work straight away. I was saying to Pierre, I read a little bit of Dostoevsky's book, The Overcoat, and I didn't realize that before. I thought gulags in Siberia was a Soviet Bolshevik invention, but the Tsarists actually had work camps in Siberia first, before the revolution. So the revolution didn't come from nothing. People were really poor and really struggling living under a Tsarist regime. So it got overthrown. And then once the Bolsheviks had roused the Russian people into action, they got it next. They were like, we'll have to kill a few million people, but just over this hill, brothers, just over this hill, sisters, everything is going to be fine. And the people who are at the front line making that happen, once you get over the hill, they're first up against the wall.
The first ones that will lead the new world will be the first to be executed as well. God damn, this is dark as fuck, dog.
Should we take another question?
Yo, Richard was being super goddamn silly while we were sharing the lamest bowl of hummus earlier, and he was on one. It was like stand-up routine, straight up. I couldn't breathe, dude. And then we get here, and where would it go?
It goes dark, man. It goes dark. Yeah, I did a little bit of overtraining today, so I'm in a strange physiological and psychological state. Everybody should try the skipping rope and the kettlebell. Just get your kettlebell out, do some snatches, do some high intensity speed work with the speed rope. Your life will improve dramatically.
So you're saying if I just jumped rope, fascism won't be a thing anymore?
Oh, I'm afraid you'll be jumping rope right into a fascist state, my dear. But at least you'll be fit and healthy.
What do you think? Should we keep going with the next question? Should we just keep talking about the end of the world?
Let's take another question, guys. If you have one, we can keep talking about the end of the world, of course.
Yeah.
But how do you always allow people with narcissistic tendencies to nestle into cozy pockets of power, guys? People who, like normal, sane people, don't want to be in power over others. So anybody who wants to be in power, I've plagiarized this from somebody else. I think a few people have made this point. Be very, very suspicious of anybody who wants power. They shouldn't want power. You're a nutcase if you want power over people. I mean, imagine the fucking... Oh, can I swear? Oh, yeah, it's ours. I thought it was on somebody else's podcast then. Fuck me. Can I swear? I'm in space. Fucking hell, I really got lost there for a second. Jesus, help me. Where am I?
This just changed the vibe of everything. Yo, when you start staring at this for even longer, you really
I'm hypnotized.
Yeah, you're in space, dude.
What the hell was I saying? Oh, yeah. If imagine the arrogance of sitting there saying, I know how a nation of people should live. That's what politics is. It's about policy. So you're saying, I know what the policies are. I know how humans should live. And then you look at that person, addicted, promiscuous, clearly depressed, on pills. I mean, Trump's on pills. They're probably all on pills. Like, being the president is a really tough job. It takes a lot of energy. So that's why they all look drained within their first 4 years. They're like the little gelflings in the Dark Crystal. Did you ever see that movie? Oh, you'd love the Dark Crystal. They look into the Dark Crystal and it sucks the life out of them. Just got completely sucked. All of their chi force is taken out. But you shouldn't want that role, man.
Yeah, I mean, to really apply yourself into a position where, first of all, you're in the spotlight. You already have a hint of NPD on the spectrum.
Soupçon. Like these two gentlemen sat here.
I was literally going to say, like, look at me, dude. I'm definitely on the spectrum somewhere if I'm willing to put myself in the spotlight. And then the other layer is that if you put yourself in the spotlight with the addition that you think you should maintain the power to control people, there you go. That's the limit. That's like the unhealthy narcissistic boundary there.
Yeah,
is when you really think that you deserve the final say in terms of how to control others and like how to move them. So then that already sets the precedent for that type of person to come to be. Then all it takes is people without that guidance in their life.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to this. I can definitely relate to this. I was like, shit, if I had at least one fucking form of guidance growing up, I could have saved myself a lot of fucking trouble, man.
Yeah.
And on a collective societal level, when people don't have jobs and shit and they need some guidance there, I mean, who are they going to turn to? The dude that can say they give them the job.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's two sides to that coin, isn't there? With the narcissists in power, there are narcissistic psychopaths who get themselves into positions, plural of power, and then there's the rest of us that put them there as the codependents. We're the mark, and we believe they're shit. I don't know why at this point anybody believes anything a politician promises you when they get into power, because it's completely illogical. There's no historical precedent to believe that they're going to do the majority of the things that they say. They do some good, obviously, but we shouldn't be believing wholesale what the promises are when they get into power, for sure. Because
do people really want to take responsibility for their own lives?
So that's a good question. That's a really, really good question. And that's why I kind of think what we're going through right now is scary and it's unsettling, but it probably is necessary. Like, human consciousness needs an upgrade, and it doesn't happen without distress and pain.
Yeah, this is the bad part of the ayahuasca trip, man.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, this is when we get like
hold on to your yoga mat.
Yeah, hold on to your yoga
Puke
mat,
a few
dude.
times.
Because like a lot of these ayahuasca trips, I hear the same stories. A giant anaconda starts slithering around your entire body and just starts pulling and strangling you, and then your body gets ripped to shreds, where you fall down a pole of rose thorns and shreds your entire body to bits, and then you get reborn into an angel or whatever the fuck. But right now, I feel like the anaconda is still kind of like, we're not there yet. You haven't suffocated.
Yeah.
We haven't started pulling. It's just wrapping around.
Yeah, it's still wrapping around us with every month that goes by, and which again sort of makes me think maybe it's not an overarching conspiracy. Maybe it is just human unconsciousness plus technology catching up, and it's the snake eating its own tail. It's Ouroboros. Aurodibulius.
Yeah.
The snake eating its own tail, which is actually a good metaphor for how human consciousness can play out.
Everything out here plays off synchronicities, and especially in Prague. I actually just posted something with that image today.
Synchronicity City.
But obviously it's one of those kind of ego-stroking quotes, but I think the actual message below it is better than the ego-stroking element here. Give me just 1 second. It says, "The truly wise see everything in paradoxes. The rest cannot agree on anything." And then you have the image of the
that's interesting.
thing eating the tail thing.
Are you going to show them?
Yeah, but I don't know if they'll be able to. Yeah, you can't see it.
You can't see shit. Yeah. There are. It's a good quote. It is all paradox. I actually just thought at the end of the one of the messages of the Dark Crystal, that particular movie, is darkness and light coming together to create unity. This Yin Yang. So everything separates. We radicalize. We polarize, like like it showed us in The Social Dilemma. Oh, we're supposed to cover that at some point.
We did.
Did we really?
We did the whole thing with Picky Mickey, dog.
Fucking hell. I don't know where my brain's at.
You're in
today.
space, dude. Look at.
So, so everything goes further out and then polarizes and radicalizes so that it can reunify later. That does seem to be how human consciousness works, but it could be centuries. It could be a couple of centuries. Like, we do expect things to get better within a short phase of time. Way too short.
So would you say if you do not come to terms with the duality within you, the duality will play out in collectives outside of us?
That's what's happening now, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So because we haven't integrated the shadow, the Jungian shadow, because we haven't integrated that duality in ourselves, as you say, we're in denial of it. We push it outward. And that, like Jung would say, that which you fail to integrate internally will express itself externally, and you will call it fate. Those are Jung's words, paraphrased. It's not fate, though. You're doing it.
Do you have a cure for collective stupidity, as in the U.S.?
Yes, drugs. Just give everybody psychedelics and they will be okay. They need to go to my reconditioning gulag. And this is the only thing I can offer people. There they will do meditation, they'll do body work, they'll do psychedelics, microdosing psychedelics, and they'll be trained in critical thinking as well. And we'll disintegrate their ego boundaries and then rebuild them. We will recreate them.
The only way to learn is the hard way, and the U.S. loves it the hard way.
Yeah.
The only way they can take it is hard.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Hoy, can I get a hoy yeah?
I looked up some of those.
It's funny,
names.
huh?
Yeah, it's funny. There was one where they did it in a hotel.
Yeah.
And they just shouted out the door and then filmed. They went, "Can I get a hoy yeah?" And everybody in the hotel went, "Oh yeah."
And another weird paradox is the fact that we can live in both of these worlds simultaneously. That's like so like innocent and fun and hilarious. But at the same time, the world is falling to this, you know?
Yeah. I wonder, well, part of me like wonders if it's not a bit of a nightmare pill, because there isn't actually anything happening. Like, I was doing a meditation back in Hoylake and I was like, the birds don't know. It's not like just human corpses everywhere and the birds are like, fuck, there's loads to eat today. Dogs don't know.
Right.
They just go out with their masters as normal and chase after the ball. What is there really?
Yeah.
You know, we can avoid getting into the specifics of what the virus does and the mortality rates do, because that tends to drive people crazy in the comments, but it's not that bad.
Right.
But our response to it, our hysteria, our indecision, our cowardice, really, I mean, at the political level, there are no adults. The adults have left the room.
As your cancel culture advisor and lawyer, I'm going to go ahead and elaborate on what you're saying here.
Wowie.
So obviously there's a lot of disasters that are happening all over the place. Like you have fires in California, you know, so certain explosions happening here. Then you have certain even concentration camps all around the world, and a lot of these pockets of just actual visible misery, right? But I mean, everyone watching right now, and like, how many fucking people are on YouTube? If you're watching YouTube somehow, you probably are at least a better place. And as much as all of this stuff is happening, especially within the media and even like these protests everywhere, that's like what, a pocket of a few main cities, right? But for a good majority, an actual majority, plus 50%, we still can go outside and look around and breathe. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So when I'm sat in Hoylake, you can look across to the left and you can see North Wales. And I was like, I can afford to go and buy a cottage in North Wales. And maybe I'll get some internet up there as well, but live up the side of a hill and be like, okay, let's see how long it takes for zombies to knock on my door, for pillagers to come and try and take my food, for visible evidence out in the countryside where the sheep are going bar of anything. I think it would be decades, if not just never. So it's an over-engagement with mainstream media. It's an over-engagement with technology and with social media. And it's the virus is really, it's internal. It's in the head.
It's like some Matrix shit.
That is some Matrix shit. Man.
But for real though, it's like We're getting more lockdowns out here, by the way. Apparently, we can't even go to a restaurant past 10 o'clock because Coroni sleeps after around 9:45 before you read him a bedtime story. So we're getting more lockdown installations. I don't know if we're going to go under full, but I mean, we just went to a cafe today. And you wouldn't even know that this shit's all happening. You know, there's still pockets from a majority of the world that can go about daily routines without that visible zombifying, corpse-eating situation.
I think the majority of the world, at all times throughout human history, it's quite quiet. You can hear the birds singing in the trees. There is horror. There is torture. There is, I mean, even if you look at something like World War II, it's still the majority of Earth. You wouldn't have heard a bomb go off. You wouldn't have heard a bullet fired. It was horrendous. It killed millions of people. But in the majority of the Earth, it was a world war. You wouldn't hear or see anything. They were in it's the minority of places these things are happening that affect people. It's still bad, but if we put all of our emotion and intention and focus on what is bad, the way human consciousness works, it's like a torch beam, and it shines in one direction. And so if you just go, right, let me look at slavery is alive and well today. There's places in North Africa right now where people are kidnapped, they're enslaved, they're sold as slaves, they're tortured over the phone to their family, and their family are forced to pay ransoms. Sometimes they're killed afterwards. There's horrendous things going down in Iran right now, very unpleasant. But, okay, that's always been there. Hideous, awful things, God-forsaken things have always been happening. I do think this is a question of consciousness. Like, what are we putting our consciousness on? I'm not saying forget about it or ignore it, but look at what we are focused on as a society. We're not focused on ending slavery in Africa. We should be. We should be focused on ending the slave trade in Africa, but we're not. We're not. Like, one of the things that makes me very cynical is I'm always saying, wow, isn't it funny how we choose our battles? Suddenly we care about old people. At no point in my life has the government ever shown concern for old people. At every other point in my life, if a virus had come along, they would have said, well, that's really sad. People are going to die, but we're not going to ground planes. We're not closing banks. We're not closing shops, because it's the economy that keeps people alive. At every other point in my life. Yeah. But now this time, old people, we suddenly really care.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like if people really supposedly cared about old people, there should be regulations to prevent them from crossing the street.
Right.
How dangerous is it for a 93-year-old with a walker crossing the street? Yeah. The chances of that person getting hit and killed is a million times more than a potential whatever else.
It's not all being done for old people. People say in the comments, it's not all. It's also being done to save the hospitals. It's being done. Okay, fine. Hospital admissions are not going up. I've had to in recent months because of medical issues, go in and out of hospitals multiple times a month, and I speak to the nurses and the doctors there, and there's no emergency. There might be. It might mutate. But so could have SARS. So could have swine flu. These are things that happened in the last 10 years. They didn't ground one flight. Not one flight was grounded for SARS or swine flu or MERS, MERS, which was way more dangerous than this. Not one flight. So I'm like, well, if the stimulus is this over a timeline and your response is this, but then the stimulus is the same thing, and your response does this. I'm like, what's changed?
Yes, and the thing is, like, I hope we're not coming off as overly insensitive, but I do think that this is a point that we should speak about as well, because obviously, if you have met or known, or maybe yourself has caught the thing, and somebody has been severely hurt by it, like, my heart goes out to you, like, definitely. But that's also a very easy way to change the framing of the situation.
It's not a justification. Like, extremely emotive. Like, we need to get past very emotive imagery. Emotive imagery is not data, and it can always be countered. We know in the UK alone, tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of deaths have been caused just through cancer patients not going to hospitals. So for every emotive image, gory image, I can give you an emotive counter image, but they're not real sincere arguments. It's a logical fallacy. It's an appeal to emotion. Like
that's where propaganda lives and thrives.
Exactly.
Right. Like, for just to give another thing, like, you and I have gone through situations that would be considered very, very sensitive to most people, and it's not after dinner conversation or during dinner conversation. But I will never hear you say and speak about how your own subjective emotional feeling affects the objective nature of the actual topic. Out of all of our conversations, we have never actually brought that up. Or you haven't.
I because I think it's a weak move, and to be honest with you, I don't feel that way about it. I don't feel, say, whatever the hot topic is, like in my case, sexual assault in childhood. I don't feel like that lends me some special authority or a hat or a stick to be like, well, that's
but
an
nowadays,
insensitive...
that silly uniform is what will give you the authority now. You could use that, and people will believe you more because you appeal to emotion by giving your subjective experience. Which is like, obviously, we should count people's subjective experiences. And I'm not trying to discredit anybody for the trauma or the severity of certain situations that certain people have gone through, including myself. But I think we should have something in the back of our minds where we have to separate, okay, this is the emotional element, which does matter, definitely. But if we want to approach it in this objective, discussive manner, we have to talk about it differently too.
Yeah, and there's a way of sort of midwiving these conversations. Yes, they're difficult, but we don't need to have a nervous breakdown because they're difficult. We don't need to regress into childhood because they're difficult. We can have a little Ben Shapiro in the back of our mind saying, facts don't care about your feelings, facts don't care about... So I don't know what the data is on. I don't, it's not my speciality, so I don't know what the data is. I know that it's prevalent. I know a lot of people go through it. I don't think it does one child any good to, if somebody makes an off-color joke about it or wants to bring it up, and I like push them out the way and go, well, let me tell you from my position of what good does that do? I'm not helping any children. I'm not helping myself.
Okay, well, here's a metaphor that I just thought up that I had to visualize to explain how this appeal to emotion can be completely flawed. Obviously, this can be applied to racism, but let's not go with racism because I know how it is. So let's just say
let's let the rest of this year play out.
Yeah. Let's go back. I don't want to touch that shit. But let's just say, for example, if somebody's wearing a green shirt,
right?
Someone's wearing a green shirt, and then that person with the green shirt punched their mom in the face, and then fucking took a knife to your kidney, and you don't have a kidney anymore, and you have problems peeing and stuff. Your appeal to emotion is that as somebody who got hurt by wearing a green shirt, I can say that green shirts are very vicious. So now you're tying your emotional trauma with somebody wearing a green shirt, and you're using that to prove your point.
Yeah, which I will admit there have been moments where I have been tempted to do that. The identity politics thing, because I did suffer sexual abuse at the hands of a woman. And the way that dialogue plays out is you can start a dialogue about a subject, and then people's individual prejudices creep in, and they start going, this is what men do. And I don't hate I was assaulted by gay men. I was like, I don't hate men. I don't hate gay men. I don't hate Canadian gay men. The one guy who was stalking me was Canadian, and I don't hate women for it. They're not, because it's not about Canadians or men or people in British boarding schools or women under certain circumstances in positions of power. It's not about that. It's about psychopaths. They're sick. The way we divide these subjects is really, really important. But I have been tempted to play the oppression Olympics card and the identity politics game when that dialogue becomes man-hating, and I'm just like, well, slow down.
The moment you enter that framework, it's very hard to navigate.
Yeah, and I just think, fuck. I would lose in my own sense of self a certain moral standing. I should be able to argue from pure reason.
Right.
Facts, data, reason, not this. Because it's like throwing a rock at somebody. If I go, well, I was molested, you have to deal with that feeling. It doesn't feel nice. Like, I was molested, and you go, ugh.
Well, then I can't argue against you.
Right.
I can't give any type of input.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would I even begin discussing anything with you?
So you would be a bad guy then. There's nothing you can say
I lost.
if you are. Yeah, you lost.
I lost.
I won because I can go, this happened to me.
Okay, well then I literally, because just of being a hopefully normal human being with a bit of empathy, why would I argue against somebody who's gone through that particular whatever trauma you want to do? It's just what do you say? It's like checkmating somebody by knocking off the rest of the pieces.
Pretty much.
You're not even playing the chess anymore. You're just here.
And this, when I was, I did a podcast with Potent for Street Shamans, and we started talking about how actually the discourse that we're in right now, we speak a lot about narcissism, but not enough about borderline personality disorder. And a lot of the way the people are dialoguing and presenting narratives actually is way more informed by the tactics of borderline personality disorder than narcissism. And one of the tactics for a malignant borderline will be to try to knock you off balance and adrenalize you by swearing, by filling your head with sexual and violent imagery, by making really off-color, boundary-breaking jokes. And they're actually, it's predatory. This is not classic narcissism. This is classic malignant borderline. I want to adrenalize you. I want to shock you, but the game is to win. It's still a power struggle, exactly like narcissism. But the winning is I can make you feel more bad. I can make you feel more shame, more guilt, or more shock.
And I would lose. Yeah. I would lose that. And the only way, it's not even about winning for me. I don't want to win that. I don't want to play chess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fucking boring. No, I'm kidding. Chess is okay. But
would you play it if a girl made you play it? Old in the game. Old man Pierre.
Girl, boy, turtles, fish, salmon, anybody playing chess with me, you can get thrown in the river. You know what I mean? Fuck.
So one of the things that I would love to see, and I think we will, I'm an optimist on this, is a move back towards civil discourse. We all learn what logical fallacies are. We all learn what the Socratic method is. And apart from that, we start arguing in good faith. Like, I don't hate you. Your position is something that I don't agree with. Let's have a conversation. I don't have to. The problem with identity politics is I go, well, it's ad hominem. It's the logical fallacy of ad hominem, which means to the man, to the woman, to the human. Let's talk about this, not about you. It's this. Mm-hmm. If I start saying, well, you would think that because da-da-da-da with the yellow and black shirt that you wear, that's you. That's not your argument.
Right.
And we've lost that. And I know I bang this drum a lot. I really think social media, the internet in general, forums, comment sections everywhere, has encouraged people, because you can't talk to anybody online without them using straw man, ad hominem. First post
all the time
of an argument, straw man. They're gonna counter an argument that you never made and put words in your mouth, and they'll attack you as who you are. This is logical fallacy 101. We have to learn how to debate. There are rules. Otherwise, it's not a debate, it's a slanging match. And you should never engage in a debate with somebody who's actually just engaged in a slanging match with you. That's called arguing in bad faith. Thank you to the Weinsteins for teaching us about that. I think it's their concept, or they're popularizing the concept.
Clarify which Weinstein.
The one with the beard or the one with the wacky hair?
People are automatically going to think Harvey.
Oh, Brett or Eric Weinstein.
Okay.
Brett,
because they're gonna ad hominem you straight up. You know what I mean? Are you quoting this dude? You know what I mean?
Harvey Weinstein was there going, yes, we shouldn't argue in bad faith. You know, we should argue in good faith and try to be sane. That would be great if he comes out as the next most popular public intellectual. I think that they're right. We should consider the faith of the person who you're arguing with. Do they want what's best for you? Do they want what's best for culture? Do they want what's best for humanity, or are they just trying to win? that person who's just trying to win is not arguing in good faith, you should not debate them, because you can't. You're not debating them. They're pretending to debate you whilst basically attacking you. They're trolling you effectively.
Yeah, I think we've had multiple conversations, and I've definitely said this within my own videos. This is the very template of communication and conversation, and every single way is so skewed. It doesn't even have to be about debate or discussing a controversial opinion. Relationships, family discussions, any type of discussion in general has to be reevaluated and retransformed into hopefully what was the norm before. I don't know if it was the norm before. This is the only world I fucking lived in. So
Yeah.
all I see is this type of shit.
Yeah. I think everybody agrees it wasn't as bad before, but it's really interesting you saying that, because whenever people ask me questions now, certainly in the last 2 weeks, I always look at the framing of the question, and you can always start with the framing of the question first. It's like the coding of the syntax of the question encapsulates the issue. So I'm saying to people, I'm not being pedantic, I'm not trying to avoid answering the question, but when you say, there was a great one yesterday, why are bad boys attractive and nice guys unattractive? And I was like, we should really decode that. You can pull that apart and look at it from multiple angles, multiple levels of nuance. It's a very common thing that you'll hear said, but actually there's a lot coded in there in a short sentence. You think you know what you mean. I actually don't think most people know what they mean. They've not thought it through. You think I know what you mean. I damn sure don't know what you mean, because language is reductive. So it's really hard for us to... So we have to have discipline. We have to have like a Socratic method for debate.
Yeah, I was trying to think of an example, because like the problem is when people come with a question that presupposes something that's supposed to be true, but you have to argue what that truth is in the first place. It's like, fuck, I can't think of a good example of this right now.
I've got a good one, which is why are narcissists attracted to me? And I'll go, well, listen to the question. The syntax is, you're assuming the locus of control is external. Narcissists are attracted to me. Have you considered the possibility that you're attracted to narcissists?
Okay, there you go.
Just turn it, just a simple one. You just turn it on its head.
Yeah.
Just flip it.
Yeah, so it's like, so how come that all lasagna tastes sweet? Mm-hmm. It presupposes that lasagna tastes sweet in the first place.
Yeah,
but that's not the initial foundation of truth.
Which makes the question impossible to answer.
Right. It might be sweet for you.
Maybe subjectively.
You know, like it might actually be sweet. Maybe you put some extra sugar or buy some fucking like high fructose corn syrup from some Montana manufacturing factory that makes pasta sauce. But it's like that first initial supposition of truth is not rooted anywhere.
So the Socratic method, Socrates would say, before you two people are going to debate each other, person one, you must describe to person two's full satisfaction their position, and then they have to do the same before you debate. So I have to tell you what you think, and you eventually say, yes, that's correct, that's what I think. You have to tell me what I think until I'm satisfied. If you get it wrong and straw man me, I'll go, nope. Once you've said what I believe, then we can move forward with the debate. Do you know how much time that would save? Like we're really just clunking cocks at the moment, like big avatar rubber dildos against each other. These are not even arguments. It's like just hitting. It's ideology, the dildo of ideology.
Yeah. Right. Where it's like, why do you hate lasagna for being sweet?
Yeah.
It's like, first of all, how do you know that I hate lasagna? Second of all, I don't even necessarily believe lasagna is sweet. So you have like so many layers of falsehoods.
Why don't you answer me? Why are you stuttering? Just tell me why you hate lasagna for being sweet.
Yeah. So like I've had a very similar situation, but let's just go with the lasagna situation, right?
Lasagna.
They'd be like,
Bitch lasagna. Shout out PewDiePie. Let's collab.
So like a lot of people come into the channel and they'll be like, Pierre, why do you hate lasagna so much?
Yeah.
Why do you fucking hate lasagna so much?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, nothing I'm gonna say is gonna change your mind thinking that lasagna is sweet and if I hate lasagna or not. I can go as far as I can to try to convince you, but in the end, if you want to believe that I hate lasagna, just believe it and save yourself the time and energy to argue. If you don't, that means you like arguing for the sake of it, and that's not what I wanted to be here for.
And that's essentially trolling. The good, proper way of dealing with that, if that person wanted to come on your channel, would be to say, I heard you say this. It gave me the impression of this. Is it true that you hate lasagna? So they present you with the evidence. They present you with their interpretation of the evidence. Is it true?
Right.
That's good faith debate.
Good faith also means you're willing to actually hear what I have to say. And then part of the Socratic whatever is like, what can I do to convince you that I don't hate it? What would I have to show or say to prove to you? And if there's no fucking answer, then
think how boundary breaking it is for me to just shove you into that box. I don't even give you the choice. I'm telling you hate lasagna. I'm not asking you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. But the question seems to be a question because it ends in a question mark. But I'm telling you how you feel. I'm telling you what you think.
Oh, you know that teenage boy joke? So, does your mom know you're gay? Have you heard that? Oh my god, dude. Just fucking politically incorrect teenagers on the playground. Just like, it was always done when you're like 13.
Right.
And then it's always like, hey, does your mom know you're gay?
Right.
And then you'd be like, no. And be like, oh, so you're gay.
A double bind.
Yeah. So that's the same kind of shit.
Linguistic double bind. Yeah.
It's the same kind of shit. So, I mean, like, with the lasagna situation, it could be applied to that. Like, does your mom know you like lasagna?
Anything. It could be anything at all. How often do you beat your wife?
There you go.
Classic from Law. Yeah.
Right.
Or why do you beat your wife all the time? Not do you, but why do you? So, and we all know these tactics. I think everybody knows that it's wrong and it's provocative and it's insincere. But it's become very socially acceptable to hurl these psychological rocks at people online. The online space is becoming real life. So effectively, people are throwing psychological rocks at you all the time in real life. This is not good. This is not a good way to be conducting ourselves. This is where I really am optimistic. I think a little bit of discipline introduced would go a long way, because when you introduce the discipline, you can weed out the bad actors. You can weed out the people who are acting in bad faith. This is why not Dave Goggins, who's the other famous Navy SEAL? Jocko Willing. Oh. He suggested that for police training, they get the equivalent of a Navy SEAL Hell Week, because Navy SEAL Hell Week helps the instructors weed out who is the, selfish, psychopathic, narcissistic, vain type who's there to be a fucking Navy SEAL and who's there for the team. Because when you're tired, hungry, no sleep, are you going to be like breaking the bread and handing it to your teammate, or are you just going to shove it all in your... And that's the little things they're looking for. And I think that extra layer of discipline really helps us to sort.
Let me ask you, this is what led me to ask this question just now. I don't think the ways of arguing, debating will change. Most people will always talk rubbish, make false assumptions, and think they're the pinnacle of right. It's a human trait. Which, yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree to a certain degree there. And I was thinking, like, in my head, what if I got really good at arguing in bad faith for the sake of knowing how to approach their approach of argumentation, where I would know the buzzwords or the ad hominems and how to slice those in the same way that they do. Is that productive? And could that be a possible way to approach this type of thing?
It is a possibility. It's not something I would engage in. Douglas Murray, who's a famous British author and journalist, and I recommend people listen to him. He is on the right. He is a conservative, but he's a sane and intelligent chap. He said that when you get into these fake debates like this, he's at the point where he's tempted to ask people, well, why do you shag kids? Mm-hmm. Literally that. Like, if you're gonna heap upon me racist, you hate immigrants and you're cruel and you're selfish and you're murderous, well, just turn around and say, why are you a pedophile? Mm-hmm. And then when they say, I'm not a pedophile, say, oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were playing a game where we were telling lies that we knew were lies about the other person just to aggravate them. Are we not doing that? And then when they say, no, we're not doing that, then you say, okay, let's both agree not to play that game. So yeah, it could work.
Yeah,
It
okay.
could, you know,
Yeah.
it's a good counter. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's a little bit overt.
Yeah, it's
but,
vicious,
like,
but
yeah.
I mean, sometimes you kind of have to go that far depending on how much they're
Yeah.
pushing it on you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be a good approach. Just not fully indulging in it, but just throw one or two of those types of katana slices and just like let them see what happens.
If
you know?
somebody's doing it to you, there's something to be said for doing it back, just so you can make them aware that they're doing it to you. So at least it's out there. The other thing with the internet debating online is you're doing it in front of an audience, where if you're just two people in a room or in a bar, it's a little bit different. So that audience makes a big difference. So at least you could be saying, at least to the audience, calling out what tactics the person is using. But there is a sort of democratizing effect that you get with the internet. Somebody asked about stupid people before. You don't know what the IQ is of the person you're debating with. You don't. So there is just one of the problems that we've ended up with is an awful lot of noise. There's a
Hysteria.
Hysteria.
Try focusing in a room full of Berlin industrial night EDM. You couldn't.
Yeah.
People be like in Berghain, pooping and stuff.
Pooping.
You know what Berghain is?
No. But they be pooping.
Oh, while you guys, you down for more questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
we got a bit of time. So while you guys ask a few more questions, make them hard hitting or soft, depending on what you like. Berghain apparently is a club in Berlin, right?
Okay.
And it's really, really hard to get in, where these people just scan you up and down and determine if you're cool enough.
Oh, wow.
But this club, it just has the most debaucherous things inside.
Really?
There's a dude in the restroom with his mouth open,
For what purpose?
just singing opera. Yep.
As he sings opera, is his face full of pee?
Yes.
Why are
And
Germans into pee? and
no,
poop?
but this is like a world-renowned club where people travel all over the world to get in, and they think it's like the best club I've ever been into ever.
Ich liebe die Scheiße.
So you want to go next week?
No, I don't want to go to PP Club.
Why?
Because it's weird and gross.
Do you ever just like wonder what it's?
You ever wonder what it's like to get a mouthful of pee?
Ew! Gross!
Just a little pee.
Yeah, ask some questions, please. I don't want to talk about Berghain anymore. Thank you for the braid compliment. Never again. Appreciate it. How do you think the transition would go from being governed by 70-year-olds in power to new and younger generations? Do you think they'd ever let it happen? It is going to happen. But how do you think that'll be?
I think that when we have our revolution and we move back to a society that is more data-based and science-based, we'll look at the simple fact that the average human being goes into somewhat significant cognitive decline at the age of 70. And then we'll say, I think if you're a politician or somebody in a position of power, by the time you are 67, we would like you to look at getting onto the golf range. And there's absolutely no way you can be in the peak positions of power past the age of 69. That just doesn't make
Okay,
sense.
but let's get into the nitty-gritty, though. Will the younger generations that could possibly take over this
Yeah.
be as competent or more competent?
Well, I don't think they could do a worse job at the moment. So right now, I would say, yeah. I mean, younger. There's a hell of a difference between 55 and 70. A hell of a difference for a human being. Their cognitive ability, their physical state. I think that they should. I know that they give the president a health check, but they should be more rigorous with their health checks. And you need to be a healthy, functioning human being. You're going to have to pass psychology tests. We need to test you for psychopathy and narcissism. We'll accept traits, but there needs to be a limit on it. We need quality control. I mean, some of these people, they're just not qualified to do the job. They're not right for that role, man. They're just not right for the role.
Yeah, my biggest fear is that through good intentions, the younger ones go about it the wrong way with their lack of foresight. But that's like, I think, a common fear for any generation ever, or just humanity in general.
That presupposes that the older ones have more foresight. So you'd say between a 55-year-old and a 70-year-old?
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to say it through comparison because they definitely are guilty of the same thing.
Oh,
But
okay.
what I'm saying is like the younger ones coming up might be guilty of the same type of thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So it effectively changes nothing.
almost.
Is below Boomer? Is that Gen X? What's below?
Gen X.
Is
yeah.
it? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Gen X would do a better job than Boomers are doing.
But what about millennials and Gen Z and you know what I mean? Because it's inevitable that they're going to come through. But like we kind of see the state of where the collective consciousness is with the younger generations on social media, and I'm like, fuck, there's a lot of hysteria here. I mean,
There is. Every generation has a weakness. So for Gen X, we might get into positions of power and then put some Nirvana on and start weeping and cutting ourselves. And
if anything, I actually, out of all the younger, quote unquote younger, I would say Gen X was probably the one that I would trust the most at the moment.
At the moment, definitely. I mean, the people I'm looking at who could be in positions of power, I'd say, yeah, give Gen X a go. We've got to get the Boomers out. I know it sounds, you can't just heap blame on an age group, and I'm not doing that. I'm saying that we only have the concept, the archetype or the meta archetype of generations can only exist and survive because it's somewhat true. It has to be more true than false, otherwise it would die. It's like that concept, Sheldrake's concept of the morphogenetic field. It's only out there existing because we see enough evidence that it seems to be true. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with people in the Boomer generation, but that generation as a whole has a certain world view. And I do believe it's nightmarish and it's ancient. And it's not ancient relative to time. They're not 50 years older than us. They might be 300 years older than us psychologically. And that's not an exaggeration. When I speak to Boomers who I know, their whole way of the world is like, it harkens back to the fucking ideas from the 18th century, pre-industrial revolution. They'll have a few drinks and they'll let things slip and you'll think, fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
What is this worldview
Yeah.
got?
So, by the way, what I'm saying right here is going to praise Gen X, basically hinting at you to take over the entire world, Richard.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
From all the age groups that I have come in contact with in terms of just communication in general, I think Gen X is that perfect middle ground that bridged, obviously, being just through sheer where they are, from the Boomers to the Millennial and Gen Z. And the reason why as well is because Gen X has a better eye on the social media world as well as the world without social media at all, which is grounding in that element. There is very little or less ideological infection because they saw what the Boomers fucked up and seen what the generations after indoctrinated with social media. And Gen X is cynical as fuck, which also allows a realistic perspective of the troubles that are happening right now. And from my experiences with Gen X, I've always been able to have discussions. Let's just leave it at that. An actual discussion without any kind of agenda pushing stuff. I mean, obviously, it depends who you're talking about. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But just out of all if I had to choose, it's probably Gen X would be. It's not time to shine, I guess. Something like that. Man.
I mean, and historically, it probably will. It will happen. I mean, a lot of the people that we're talking about who are in positions of power at the moment, they're not going to live forever, and their health won't go on forever. They will eventually drop out. It's a shame that we even have to talk in these terms. I mean, it's supposed to be a democracy. It's supposed to be. You're not supposed to wait for people to die in a democracy. Like, how do we get rid of this dictator? Well, we have to kill him, or he dies of old age. But that's not what I'm saying. There's an old guard. There's an old brigade. It's real. It's not conspiracy theory. And I'm not talking about men with hoods chanting. But there is an old guard. There is an old brigade. They do have a way of sorting the world out. It's absolutely real because I've seen in my own life little glimpses of it. Like I told you when I was joining the army as an officer, I got taken to like secret clubs in Liverpool that nobody knows about, that like you have to go, it's like a speakeasy sort of, and in there is judges, ex-officers, chiefs of police, solicitors, and they sit and they drink and they have chats about what's going on in Liverpool and they make sure things work. They have a conversation about who's doing what over there and where, and things get sorted out. Of course they do. I mean, anybody thinks that's a conspiracy theory is mad. Of course people in positions of power talk to each other.
Of course.
And they'll say, what should we do? And they don't waste taxpayers' money by going through official channels all the time. They just, I'll just give Teddy a call. Teddy, there's blah, 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 blah. Can you fix this? Yes, of course. And it's done. So, but there is an old guard. There is an old brigade, and they are old, but not 50 years older, 300 years older. Their world vision is totally different, and we need rid of them. We need rid of that worldview.
Yeah.
I'm not talking genocide. I'm talking golf.
Okay, yeah.
So get your putt and swing ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable that we are already in a new world. I think ever since the rise of the internet and ever since that time period, it's just been a relentless, unapologetic transition to a full new way of thinking. And the old way of viewing the world in any element of life is gonna be very, very, very hard to hold on to. Career-wise, business-wise, relationship-wise, communication, everything is switching. It's flipping hard right now, and to maintain old traditional ways of behaving is going to be very difficult to integrate in today's world.
Definitely. And it's going to be some of the stuff, I think we've said this on here before, some of the stuff that people really fear losing, that they say is an absolute catastrophe, is actually parasitical anyway. They're not going to miss it. When it's gone and they've gone through the withdrawal and they've done some shaking and some crying and that.
Well, I mean, how many fucking CEOs that were balling just gave up all their shit anyways? I mean, obviously you have the psychopaths that hold on to the wealth, but I don't think we've even come to terms with the fact that how many of these rich CEO types ended up selling all of their and liquidated everything to go do a retreat in ayahuasca. You reach that element anyways, you're going to have that midlife thing. You might buy a Corvette, then you realize oh shit, I mean, this thing is a lot to take care of. Fuck it. I don't want it anymore. I'm going to go golf or something.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be loss, but there's no such thing as change without loss. If the more we cling to the things that we're losing, the more painful the change will be if we over-attach. So some things have to go, and that's okay. That's okay. That's where, when I said about being a midwife and midwiving these things through, you want it to be wholesome and healthy, but you can't stop it from being painful. You can't stop the pain of childbirth. It's impossible, but you can be supportive, you can be strong, you can make the person giving birth feel safe, like they're in experienced hands. You may need to be a little bit callous and cruel with some decisions, but it's for the best.
Right. Obviously we're talking shit on boomers now, but when I grew up in a magic shop, I was just being mentored by a bunch of boomers that were really into magic. They taught me a lot of dope shit. They taught me a lot of things and kind of aligned me to a certain way. But if I'm wearing eye makeup and a headband, it's they freak the fuck out. So it's everybody has their own holes in their worldview. And there's so much of their worldview that I look at now. I'm yo, that's ancient as hell. But I'm still really appreciative of the stuff that they taught me while growing up too.
Yeah.
But it's old. It's old thinking,
Oh, there's that. There's people who tell me I can only make it big in America if I shave and put on a suit. And I'm like, and not swear. And I'm like, well, then I don't want to make it big in America. If that's what I have to do, you can shove it up your bottom.
Right.
And do a little dance with it in there.
In Berghain.
In Berghain. As a poopy slut.
You guys got any more questions? In the meantime, while we're waiting for our dinner to arrive, what's the time limit?
We have 18 minutes now, I think. Cool. Somebody just asked, is it still worth trying to set up an online business now? There's never been a better time.
Oh, dude. Oh,
my God.
I've said this on multiple podcasts before, but this is the biggest lifesaver I've ever done was eat shit trying to make it happen while there wasn't a pandemic and risking the fact that this online platform was not going to work. And in the most vital time in my life ever, I got what I needed to have done. And I don't think it's ever too late to start online business.
There's nothing more secure than that now.
Yeah, the fear old age boomer thinking, the old fear was that if you don't start a real life service, the internet might just disappear one day. You might not have electronics one day. The opposite happened. Real world businesses are closing all over the fucking place, and the only thing that survived right now is the internet. You know? So, that I think there's a lot to say there.
Yeah, definitely. You should, if any of you are thinking of doing it, for God's sake, start now. The sooner you start, everything has a life cycle. Everything has time is your friend with an online business. That's how.
What do you got to lose now?
Yeah.
With the state of the world, what do you got to lose now?
Yeah.
You know, so just by putting that effort out there, it's you. There's nothing you can lose, really. So I mean, now is the time. Everyone's online now.
Yeah.
Let's look at your comments. That's funny. Is it possible to be an entertainer and not be narcissistic? I think you gotta have elements of it, man. Because if you're an entertainer and you don't desire any of the attention at all, then you won't be the best entertainer, but that doesn't mean that you won't be a good musician, right? So I think there's actually a difference between good musicians, in this example, and good entertainers. There's some really talented musicians that are terrible entertainers. You know, so I think that if you want to be a successful entertainer, you got to enjoy the spotlight, which means that you got to have an element of it. Doesn't mean you have to be like a complete fucking malignant, abusive fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a narcissistic trait is not full-blown narcissism. That's a really good example you gave. I got to see the Foo Fighters, I think it was the year before last. Got tickets bought for me because I don't like the Foo Fighters. I think the music is crap. But I loved it because they're such good entertainers. Cool. So the content, I was like, it's middle of the road rock music. Ugh. Yeah. But when I was actually there live, they were doing it for it was a corporate do for like Hewlett Packard or something. And they played it like it was Wembley. They played it like it was the last concert they're ever going to do on Earth. I was like, God, you got to respect that.
Yeah.
Like Dave Grohl and the drummer, they took turns. They were like swapping around. They were playing with each other. They were joyous, exuberant. For a corporate gig, they played their hearts and souls out. I was like, wow, I guess that's impressive.
Would you consider that like narcissism at its best? That type of thing?
There is such a thing as healthy narcissism.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, but whether it's healthy or malignant, that trait across the spectrum, for it to be an entertainer, to capture people's attention, hold people's attention, demand a certain reaction from a huge crowd of people, wow, you probably would need to be a narcissist to just deal with or somewhat narcissistic to deal with the stress of that, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Anything you see while I'm scrolling?
What part of ancient Egypt did you grow up in?
Let me go back down. Live streaming is fun, anxiety, Max, but that's probably because it's unknown and vulnerable in some sense. Okay, so this goes in specifically with what we're talking about too. You are probably more of a healthy, sane person if you are anxious on a live stream.
Yeah.
If you are nervous and you feel uncomfortable live streaming and putting your face out there, that is a sign of a healthy person.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot to have a bunch of people fucking watch you at all times. And you got to have something a little off on you if you can really deal and relish that type of feedback, you know? I don't just encourage every single person I know to do what I do and be a public figure, because most of the people that I talk to are a bit more sane, you know? It levels me out a bit. So with that being said, like, if it depends how much you really want it, and you can always, move past it, but you're probably a healthy person.
Yeah. We both like this improvised format because it's chaotic, right?
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. We don't plan shit, dude. You know what I mean?
Nothing.
Like, I think it's fun for us because it is really chaotic and it's unpredictable. And
you have to concentrate.
Yeah. And, that goes to say, like, look at our backgrounds in terms of, what we enjoy. I used to play music and just scream on stage and just get myself in really unexpected situations I've never been in. You were a nightclub bouncer and you just saw chaos. So this type of thing kind of satiates that part of our brain,
Psychopaths need excitement.
Uh-huh. But that's not me.
That ain't me, dog. I love pee.
I love B. Are future discussions going to have more sociology or psychology, where we have to continue to blend? I feel like things are going to lean more towards that, because even just with the YouTube commentary realm, it's leaning more psychological. And I think after we kind of reach a tipping point with the political polarization, we will start speaking in more sociological terms when we find out the radicalization is not the answer. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I like doing both. When I was doing my degree, because I was a little lefty social justice warrior, I would deliberately answer psychology questions from the sociology section of the library, also because I was a contrarian. So there's always going to be elements of both that are necessary, and we are moving into a period where we will need a very nuanced understanding of the psychology of what's happening to then be able to examine and analyze the sociological effects.
If we really want answers, then we have to do that. I think the only solution to any of this is if we start talking in those terms, not politically, but sociologically and psychologically.
We got to get past the politics, right?
That's the only way, if we really do want a way out, is if we start talking beneath that, which is the sociological, psychological elements of things.
Somebody asked a question about online businesses a little bit further up. If you scroll down a touch, we just went past that. What are good start out businesses? How would you clarify your businesses? Just a quick piece of advice on that. Never forward engineer from what you have and try and sell it to people. Find out what people want and give them that. And always be niche. Always be very niche and very specific. Never be general.
That's good. Do we need some foolish minds to maintain our curiosity in the examination of psychology in others? When you apply the fool as an archetype and temporarily in certain occasions, it is the best way to get intel on others.
Definitely. Definitely.
So take that as you will. See anything?
No. Juniper says, Richard is coming out of his shell. Awesome. We've been doing this for about a year now.
Mm-hmm.
More than a year now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been coming out of my shell for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty slow.
And Prague was the last key, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's great seeing you enjoy yourself, man.
Coming out of my shell.
Yeah, it's treating you real well.
Why, yes. Tootski. Somebody said, what do you think about librarians, Richard? I think that they're wonderful people. They're doing a great job, and I'm very grateful for their existence.
Where do we go from here?
It always reminds me of the last few bars of Sweet Child of Mine. Where do we go now?
You know why they wrote that?
Mm-mm.
They literally didn't know what to write. On that.
Really?
So they're like, where do we go? Well, let's just write that. Where do we go now? Because they didn't know what to write there.
Oh, that's a nice story. I like that.
And maybe that's the metaphor we should follow.
Yeah. Where do we go now?
We might not know the destination, but sing it as loud as you can while we're still here, baby.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I think that's pretty much good for now. I mean, unless we find one more thing, I'll give you guys one more chance. And if you guys don't ask a good question, I'm going to go decapitate myself. Oh, this is great. Look, Denise, shout out to Denise. That looks like a great question. How do you guys think we can... Is it coming soon?
No, we're good. We've got
All
9
right.
minutes.
How do you guys think we can establish a better communal sense of society in the future, especially regards to Western societies and ever-growing mega cities in the recent corona situation? Brilliant question. Really good question. I watched a bit of your chat, and I forgot which one it was, but you were saying how individuation is the answer, and that collectivism is untrustworthy. And I actually do agree with that because I still, a huge part of me does believe in collectivism to a certain degree, but after seeing like how hysterical everyone recently has been, I'm starting to really shift my viewpoint. I think it came from a really good-natured and well-intentioned place, but human nature is hijacked really easily.
Super easy.
Really fucking easy when that tribal communal element comes into place. The problem with the very, very westernized nation is the over-individualization, which leads to the inability to work with each other. So we're all kind of stuck right now because I'm not even sure exactly what would be the best route, you know?
This morning when I woke up and I was being the interdimensional space squid, I woke up from a dream in which I was a Spanish real estate agent.
Okay.
Female. And she was trying to get married, and she there was this guy in her life, and she was going to marry him. And obviously I'm still half asleep when this is. I was sort of lucid dreaming. There's light in the room, so I'm not properly dreaming.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I'm kind of aware I'm dreaming. Let's see where this goes. And she walks out of the real estate agency, and she's thinking about this guy that she really likes. And I can see this guy, and I'm being her, and I know how she feels about this one guy. And then she goes outside and she smokes, and she's like, what am I trying to do? She said, I'm trying to connect with him. And then she says, why do I need to connect with him so much? And then she turns to the right, and there's this huge tree, and some of the roots are exposed, like a really vastly broad avatar-style tree. And she says, she thinks to herself, I'm really trying to connect with him because I've stopped connecting with everybody else. And the tree was alive. It moves. So trees move over time. They're not static. The branches move. They grow in different directions. The roots move. And she was looking at the tree and she was like, this is humanity. This is human life. People live and they die and they go back to the earth, but we're all the same community at all times. And we've lost that. So to the collective and individual point, it's a yin yang scenario. We have been strong where we should be weak, and we've been weak where we should be strong. The answer won't be pure individualism or pure collectivism. We need to be aware of, let's say it, malignant individualism, we call it narcissism, and then malignant collectivism, which you would, try every time we tried to do communism, for example. So what do we need? We need that individuation. We need to individuate fully, and then we need to reconnect with the group. We need to reconnect with this tree, because we're eternal. We just die a lot. We die and come back to life. We make babies. We keep coming back, and then we die and we come back. And there should be a collective of us. We should never feel like we're on our own. We should feel like we're connected to people in our community, other family members, a tribe. We must have a tribe. We have to reconnect with other human beings. Just hanging around with other people that you know, being recognized, you see their kids, you see their dogs, you see like somebody needs something from you and you can give it to them. Somebody needs a lift, you can give it to them. You need something, they give it to you. We need that. We need that for no other reason other than that's what makes us feel good, and it makes us feel like people.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, mate.
You gotta write that down.
Yeah, mate.
So, yeah, collectivism through individualization.
That's what it's always been. That's what our initiations were throughout all of human culture across the globe was become a man, my son, become a woman, my daughter, become a whole individual, strong, boundaried, come back into the tribe. You must individuate. You must be your own person, and then you can be contribute to the tribe. Sanely, you contribute to the tree.
I'm speechless.
My
Damn, that's the answer.
yeah,
Oh wow,
that's great. From a real estate agent in Spain.
So
not in this timeline. She's in the 80s.
Did you end up selling the house, or
she gave up smoking, so she did well.
That's worth it.
Yep.
My beautiful friends out here on the flip ship. How do you like the ship, by the way?
It's beautiful. It's pink and blue and floaty, and it makes me forget where I am and who I'm talking to, what day of the week it is.
Unfortunately, as much as we are in the future in a spaceship, we still have human needs, and that's to shove food down our esophagus. We are quite starving. at this moment. But thank you for joining on the very first Tentacle Croissant Flip Ship live stream, and I think it went very well. Really brilliant questions, and I do think that we should show a bit of appreciation for the crowd here. Genuinely, thank you for being level-headed academics that have really grounded discussions on our platform, because it's really fucking hard to find nowadays. So thank you very much for that, everybody. And Richard, close us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for your attention, the two most precious resources you have, and you've offered them to us here today, and we're truly grateful. And we look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you.